Welcome to One Way to Machines and the B7 Audi RS4 series. In this video, we will be refinishing the carbon fiber engine covers on the RS4. The method we're going to use is with clear coat. You can also use epoxy resin, but that stuff is much more expensive. The advantage to epoxy resin may be that it is better in terms of heat cycles. We're going to try the clear coat, and we're also going to do a long-term test to see how it fares with that. It is very common for these covers to fade over time. They get a yellowing effect. Another common part on the rear cover is for the red sticker to peel off. This one has peeled off on here. I personally like the look of the chrome, so we're not going to do that. But in the case that you do want to give it that red look again, what you need to do is get some red model paint for model cars, and then use your precision artist skills and use the brush tip just to fill in all of the insides there. Remove carbon fiber engine covers by pulling straight up with even force to release them off of their tabs. When removing the rear cover, this piece goes underneath the throttle body here. So as you pull up, gently bring it forward a bit and then you'll be able to release it. For this method of doing the project, you're going to need a respirator mask for when you go to put the clear coat on. We're going to use masking tape to cover the sticker on the front engine cover because we don't want to replace that. We want to save as much as we can. The knife we will use possibly for the masking tape in order to get straight edges. In order to get the old yellowed material off of the carbon fiber engine covers, we're going to use softer grit sandpapers. We're going to start off with 180 grit and we're going to go dry, and then we're going to go 600 dry. In the process, we're going to use alcohol and a cloth to get the sanding dust off. It's possible that you could use lower grit such as 80, which might be way too low, or 120 to start. The goal here though is those are very expensive. I've seen prices around $500 to $1,000 for them new. So we want to get the most even finish and not go into the actual carbon material. So we're going to take it easy and we're going to start off with 180. It might take more sanding than it would with 120. But we're going to do with 180 and then we're going to move on to the 600 to get our smooth finish. Once we're finished the sanding process on the front engine cover and we remove the masking tape, we're going to use this angled pick. You can probably use different angles too. I think this one is going to work the best though. And we're going to hold it from here and we're gently going to go inside of the letters because we don't want to replace the sticker. And we're just going to use this to remove the old yellowed material. Being very careful, you need to have a bit of an artist touch to do this job, because if you go way too hard, you're going to scrape in there and you're going to gouge it. So you have to go very gently and you have to be very precise. So do this at a time when you have a lot of attention. That's what the pick is for. Our product of choice is going to be this 2K clear coat. It's a 2-part clear coat. Don't ever use the 1-part clear coats. They don't finish nearly as good as this stuff does. But we want this to be something that anyone, anywhere in the world can pretty much do. So this stuff is readily available. It's on Amazon. You can get it at most professional auto paint stores. It's not too pricey. And it's got instructions for how you pop the bottom. And it's only good for about 24 hours. I've had luck for 48 hours in case you want to use one can for multiple projects you might have in the garage, because most of it will go to waste if you just use the can for this one small project. This here is just a carrot juice bottle that I had. Use a knife to cut off the top part. And what you're going to use this for is you're going to put warm water in here, especially if you're working on a colder day. And you're going to put your paint can in here for about a minute and 30 seconds before you shake it, so that it can warm it up and you have a more even spray. You don't have a chance of it jumping out in an odd way. So that's what the juice container's for. When it comes to the painting section, you always want to every single time you shake it or you go back to do a layer, you're going to spray just a small amount onto your cardboard or plastic coverings or bed sheets, whatever it is you're going to use to protect your area from overspray. That's another item you're going to need. We'll probably just use plastic covers, but you want to just spray something somewhere else, piece of cardboard. Make sure that you're getting an even spray, even with the warm water, and then come over to your actual project application. The clear coat finish may have a little bit of an orange peel effect. We're not going to do any wet sanding on this. We may just use a heavy cut compound with a microfiber towel and press it in just to maybe get a smoother finish, but the clear coat might be at a point where this is not necessary. So if you do have some compound, which if you're a car person you most likely will in the garage, you can use this afterwards to just give it a bit more of a shiny finish. This is not fine enough of a project to require flexible sanding blocks. Just use the even pressure of your fingers to get around all of the edges. The only thing is, don't use a very low grit and go too far into the carbon fiber material. You'll be able to have a feel for it. And wear a mask when you're doing the sanding, because sanding dust goes further than you think. Begin by sanding the rear engine cover with 180 grit sandpaper, going gently around the emblems. Something I want to mention at this point is work in small sections. As you get the material on top down, you'll start to see the carbon fiber. Don't dig into it, work in small areas. As you're going, wipe it down with a rag, but also use your alcohol to spray on there, and that'll make it more clear which parts are down to the carbon fiber and which parts still have that protective material that needs to go off. So make it a balance act between the three. Another tip to have more efficient sanding: when you have your piece of sandpaper, the edges are going to clog up quickly with material. So tear off an edge every once in a section. Go tear off another edge. You'll have enough in your package. But this will make it much quicker, because like this, you clog up your sandpaper and you dump the dust back into your work area, making it less effective again. So tear off a piece every once in a while and use a clean section, and you'll work much more better and efficiently. Okay guys, I've been going at it for a while with the 180 grit, and it's turning out pretty good. It becomes clear where the old protective material is, and once you've gone through that layer, so you'll get a feel for it as you're working. I am going to move down to 120 grit because the 180 was kind of a feeler. It does seem like with 120 I could go a lot faster and it might save some time, and it won't go through the actual carbon material too much. The only thing I'll say is, if yours is yellowed quite a bit like mine is, you are going to get into the actual carbon material, and when you spray some alcohol you'll be able to see the difference. There will be an improvement even before any clear or other work, just with the first round of sandpaper. But inside of the grooves, because carbon fiber is woven, okay, inside of the grooves of the weave, you're still going to have some of those yellow portions there. So what I urge you not to do is to keep sanding to the point that you completely flatten out the actual carbon fiber. It's still going to look much better than it did before. Leave those tiny little yellow or browning spots inside of the corners of the weaves. They're going to be all over the place. You're still going to see a major improvement though. So we're going to drop it down to 120 and see how that sandpaper works. Okay guys, so the 120 grit is going a lot faster than the 180, and it's not going too fast that you can't keep up with once you've finished going through the protective material. So let's change it over to, if you have 180, go with 180, but it'll take a lot longer. Go from 120, and then we're most likely going to do 600, but we'll work on that as we keep going as well. There are lots of odd angles and precision that you need to have to do this, so You need to be a person with attention to detail and a lot of patience for this job. Okay, so we're getting to a point where the sandpaper is getting quite annoying to use. As you can see the discrepancy here, this is the protective material. This is now down to the actual carbon material, to the most that we can go. Now, for the rest of it, we're inside of here, we're going to use this pick. But the way it's going to work is, again, you need to have an artist's touch. You're not going to just grab it and start going at it. You're going to start gouging everything. So you want to try to hold the pick in this orientation, really close to the neck there. And you're just going to feel it. On a lot of it, when I've done it a little bit, it starts to chip off. So you just got to feel it until you chip off the protective layer and just go very smooth. Then maybe touch it with the corner of 120 grit on your finger. Just feel it out until you can get the protective film off of these areas as well. Okay, so the pick method is working quite well in cleaning the areas. It does kick up some of the more of the fiber of the carbon fiber. Don't worry about it. Come back. What I've been doing is going back with just a little piece of 120 grit, and then you even that out too. But let that be a note that don't pick too hard with the pick. Get a feel for it. Don't go too light, don't go too heavy, but do scratch it off. It will get the protective layer off. Follow it up with 120. When working with the pick to get the insides of the emblems and the outsides, definitely wear safety glasses because your face is going to be very close so that you can see exactly what you're doing. And the pick is going to send off chunks of the clear protective material right into your face. So now we've got the rear one almost done with getting the protective layers off. I sprayed a bit of alcohol on it just to give it the maybe clear coat look that it's going to have afterwards. We are going to hit it with some 600 just to get rid of some of the heavier scratches. There aren't many really. And what it reveals is that yellow or brownish haze that gets inside of the fibers that I said. The sandpaper does a good job of getting rid of about 70% of it. If you want to get in there and clean all of those, I did it on some small sections with the pick, but there's no way anyone has the ability to get into every single groove and knock out the garbage or whatever it is that's in there. Because as you do it, you're going to damage the fibers beside it. It's better not to do this. Let's just see how good it gets after all the sanding is done, and we're going to clear coat it. It's not going to be perfect, but it's better than going with a pick and trying to get everything out of every single groove. The original plan was to put masking tape over the writing and then work around the edges first. I'm just going to feel it out with the sandpaper. I'm going to get in here with the pick. So the takeaways at this point in the project are, it takes a lot of time to do this, a lot of patience. For the front one, the stickers, they're just going to come right off. I'm not going to bother trying to source the stickers now because, like I said, we're going to do the 2K clear coat and also do a heat cycle test. So at the end of next summer, we'll have another video to show how well the actual finish held up. If it held up well, we'll get the stickers, we'll put them on. If not, we're going to sand them again and we're going to do the epoxy method. The covers can be sanded more, but the only thing that I urge you to do if you're sanding, I only sanded down to 180 grit, I didn't even touch it with the 600, is don't keep going on a spot if it's really yellow, because then you start eating into the fibers more and more and more. Clean it up, look at it. You do need to have a feel for it. Okay, this part's yellow, give it a bit more sand, give it a bit more sand. But if you see one spot has more yellow, don't just sand it down until you go into the actual material, because that might make it look very bad. So this stuff, if you guys were here up close, you would see that there is still yellowing left inside of the fibers. We're going to clean it up, and then we're going to put the clear coat and see where we're at. These bottles are both alcohol that we're going to use to clean them before painting. We did not end up hitting it with the 600 grit. 600 is usually good for metal surfaces like car paint. What this turned out to be, it doesn't need any more smoothing. We want to be able to keep as much of the weave as we can, and the weave does have a bumpy nature to it. So hitting it with 600 grit would only make it smoother than we've already had to make it. We did not want to make it smooth, but that's just an inevitable part of using sandpaper. I was going to not mention it because it could have been from the nylon on the inside of my other sweater rubbing back and forth against my arm here during the sanding process. But then again, the dust from the carbon fiber and whatever protective material is on there does get very fine, and whatever it is, if it was the actual dust that got in there and started to scrape, because now I put these gloves back on and I can feel it on my hands too. So if you have some kind of hypoallergenic skin issue or you rash easily, maybe this isn't something you want to try. Or if you're going to do it, wear some really long dishwashing gloves or something that can't get it on your skin. So like I said, it might have been because of the nylon in my sweater, or it could have been the small shards from this material. So that's also something to pay attention to. Clean engine covers with alcohol. Be very gentle with the alcohol and the microfiber towel, as the sanding dust will come off, and then the color of the actual carbon fiber may keep coming off onto the towel. So just give it a light once over, put your finger on it, make sure it's dry, and that's it. Don't just keep going because your cloth will continue to pick up color. Next, whatever your choice of material is, we are going to line the work area to prevent clear coat overspray. Clear coat will get everywhere, paint will get everywhere. If you've ever done body work, you know this, so get the area covered as much as you can. Now that we're ready for paint, put the 2K clear coat can inside of the cut juice box with warm water for about 1.5 minutes so that you get even spray. Pop the 2K clear coat can as per the instructions, spray some on the cardboard so that you know it's spraying evenly, and then go at it on your engine covers. The one at the back, I put it up against the cardboard there. That looks like it's going to get the most coverage without having to be touched. The smaller one in the front. We're most likely going to give it about 10 minutes to 15 minutes between coats. Light coats and even strokes. Even strokes. Put on your mask and safety glasses. Wait for it to warm up a bit. Then shake the can for about 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. And between coats, you also want to shake it and go refill your water with warm to hot water and let it settle again. This is more important if you're working in cooler temperatures. It's winter here right now. It's just about the temperature where you can't paint any colder, and I wouldn't be doing this. But even in the summertime, using the hot water for your paint can really helps to get an even coat throughout the range of using the can. So when you take breaks, go get more warm water, put it back in there. After 2 coats, they're looking shiny and better than before. 1 more coat and then we're done. I'm holding the spray can about 8 to 12 inches away from the carbon fiber covers. The time left between coats is 10 to 15 minutes. The rear engine cover doesn't have a lip on the back, so we're going to leave it as is. The one on the front got almost no spray on the back end, so I gently put my fingers underneath and rotated it on the cardboard. We're going to hit it once or twice, and then on the 3rd round it's going to be ready for more paint as well. So we're back here the next day. The covers have dried. What are the takeaways from this? You can get rid of a lot of the yellowing with this method. The clear coat finish is good. It's not as good as, say, what an epoxy would be. Even the factory protective film that was on it looked a bit more even and smooth. In my opinion, though, this is more than enough, and this is in the engine bay. Unless someone's doing a 500,000 point inspection on your car, they're not going to catch the slight differences. The yellowing is still visible under different light conditions in some parts, because there is a maximum sanding that you can do. If you go too far, then you start going into the actual carbon material and you're going to damage it. So there are parts that are going to stay more yellow. I urge you not to keep going with the sandpaper if you see that it's starting to go into the material. In terms of using the actual pick, I did go around the emblems with the pick. I might have gone a little bit too hard. Some of them have scratches on the fibers inside of the emblems, but again, this is stuff that somebody would have to be looking for really hard in the back of the engine bay to see once these are reinstalled. So I don't say don't use the pick. Okay, there's not much else that you can use to get rid of that protective film in these areas. The center areas where I didn't have to put too much pressure, they're okay. It's around the edges that I might have gone a little bit too rough, and they're not in as good shape as the rest. So do use the pick. Just be very gentle with it. Take a lot more time and be patient. And to make another case for continuing to use the pick and not trying to think of a different method, because other methods would probably take too long to make this project even worth it, is that this entire front cover, if you'll go back to the beginning of the video or previous videos, you'll see that this one was very yellowed and flaky. This one I used 120 and 180 grit. This one I just took the small pick, this pick here, okay? And once I had more of a feel for it, because I did this one first, I finished everything first, and I went a little too deep on the edges on this one. I had enough of a feel that I didn't even start with sandpaper on this one. I just gently took this pick, minding that I was still doing the protective film, that I hadn't hit the carbon fiber. So you got to be very focused if you're going to do this. And you have very bad peel on your front cover or rear cover. I just went with the pick. I got all of the flakes off. Then I came back and hit it with the 120, then with the 180, and it turned out fine. And it has nowhere close, it does not have any scratches like what I have around the insides of the emblems, the very hard parts to get. So if you're more gentle with the pick, you'll probably have a better result than me there. Even with what I've done, this is still more than fine. This is going in the engine bay. The covers are back in the car and they look better than before. I would say it's about a 70% improvement. The yellowing still is inside of the corners of the fibers. There's not much you can do about that. I don't suggest you use the pick to try to individually go in there and clean them. You'll just damage more than you will fix. Next, we're going to do a long-term test with this. So next summer, when this car is back on the road, we'll drive it the whole summer or midsummer, and we'll check up on it and see if the clear coat method actually holds up or if it does poorly underneath heat cycles and yellows again, or some other effect occurs. A quality epoxy for this job is going to cost over $100. I tried this before to see if you can save some money here. The thing with the epoxies though is they will give you a greater shine than this two-part automotive clear coat. So if that's something you're going a thicker layer and a thicker shine, then the epoxies will probably do a better job than this. If you're a person that really loves being under the hood of your engine, maybe go with the epoxy route right away. If you're not in a rush, wait until the end of next summer until we come back and see how this all did. Then we're going to source the sticker and put it back on the front cover as well. So there you have it. It looks pretty good. Like I said, about 70%. And the only thing I would say is, yeah, go gentle with the pick, but you can still use picks on this job and the covers look much better than before.